first is agenda changes. I know none. Alex?
I don't have any for you, no.
All right. Up next is review the minutes. Everybody can review the minutes for any.
We have two deliberative session things. One before other business and one after other business. I think it's the one after other business that counts, right? It says Dennis P. made a motion, and then it has other business that Ted B. made a motion.
Yeah, that would make sense. Delete
Okay.
delete the one before
Yes, okay.
the other business.
Yeah, we had some confusion there.
Yeah, there was some confusion. So I think that was all I had.
What?
So what are you playing with?
Hang with me. I'll draw you in, don't worry. I'm
Nothing
doing
else?
minutes. I'm practicing my,
Okay,
whatever
for
you call these
technology.
things.
That's
Yeah.
right.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
All right, next is Craig and Malissa Martin.
Yeah, I should abstain too, actually. And Don, no offense, my name is spelled K-I-E-L-M-A-N, so.
Hi there.
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? I'm Melanie Ryan. I'm a property manager with Neville Companies. I'm here on behalf of Craig Martin.
Okay. So you're looking for a renewal of an expired permit?
We are.
And Alex, the only thing that's changed is you've asked about
Actually,
keeping the slab? or
yeah,
what?
so actually nothing's changed. When Melanie submitted the application on behalf of the Martins for this new go-around, they made a note that the slab that was going to remain in the first proposal was going to come out and just be gravelled. So that was going to be different. But since I sent the draft decision out, Melanie said that they've decided to actually keep it too costly to take it out. So
Okay.
in fact, it is the exact same application as last time. The slab is going to stay. We don't have to worry about potential bank erosion if the slab were to come out. They're just going to park on top of it.
Correct.
So do any of the board members have any reason to talk about it anymore, or we've
Yeah.
already approved it once?
The only thing I would add is that we didn't say anything in the decision last time about a stockade fence that is now proposed in the bank side of the slab. And we probably ought to say something about that. So it's a good idea.
Yeah, it was in the previous decision
Was it?
somewhere, and then I thought I clarified it in this. I did go through this decision and rework it,
Well, maybe I just missed it.
but let me see if maybe I missed specifically mentioning that.
In number 4, order, the fencing is mentioned, one of the last sentences. The type of fencing utilized shall be selected to help screen headlights from shining on the adjacent green space property.
Yeah, that's where it is. It says fencing shall be added to the western side of the parking area as
Okay.
discussed above. So I guess we just need to make sure it is in fact discussed above. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, I didn't see where it was discussed above.
Findings or conclusions. Hold on.
So in conclusion 6, you just want to leave that as is and remove the underscores? I mean, it still seems valid.
Yes, I would
it's-
recommend, based on the applicants wanting to keep the slab, that you just leave conclusion 6 in. I'll just take the bold and underline out of it.
Okay, because I think just the comment, removal of the slab is just good information, I think, for future reference.
I agree. It's going to stay, but if it someday wanted to be removed, this would be that reminder to say, hey, watch out about
Pay
the
attention.
erosion.
Yeah.
So it's in finding 7. I think.
It is.
Well, the project narrative proposes, okay, got it. That's it.
Yeah, the
Yep.
narrative proposes bumpers and a fence to
I guess we
delineate
did
the
an
western side.
awesome job last time then.
So, any explanation as to why we had to continue this?
Funding issues.
Do we hope to get it done within this period?
We need to, yes. Our insurance company is telling us that if we don't, they will not renew our policy. So that is definite.
Good luck.
How long have the Martins owned this property?
I'm not sure. I've only been managing the property for about a year now. I know that it's been quite some time. I believe it's probably been about 20 years now.
I guess I'd like to bring up on conclusion 8, a reminder about the asbestos being on the fire and safety. I would just make sure you're aware you may find such.
Yes.
Yeah, that's in.
Mitigation or whatever.
Did I pass that along to you, Melanie? The fire chief emailed me.
Yes, I did receive your paperwork.
Okay,
Mhm.
yeah, because Al Barber emailed me about this application and said, "This isn't us, but here's a state and EPA, paperwork to fill out regarding demolition
Right.
work," and so you have that.
We do, yes.
So I'm not sure it's germane, and I wasn't around 2 years ago when this was.
You were,
approved.
just not here.
And I just make the observation that especially in cases where the property has been owned for a lengthy period of time, and basically that property deteriorates over that period of time, I think there's some responsibility on the part of owners to maintain buildings like this. And we've got other situations, I think, in this village where we have, if not necessarily historic properties, we have properties that I would say contribute to the feel, ambience, character of what people talk about when they talk about the village. It's hard for me to profess that this is one of those structures, but I think on some levels one could argue.
We did talk at length if it was considered a historic, and we talked about if it had historic architecture or.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's not always a question of whether it's, quote, historic architecture. It's a question of whether it contributes to
Yes.
the character of our village that people laud all the time. And so it's an observation, it's not necessarily a critique of this particular circumstance, and since it's been approved previously, I think it's hard to go back on that.
I'm not
But
sure.
I would raise the issue.
I'm not sure what authority we have to require people to maintain structures like this, though.
I think,
I mean, unless
I
it's on the
think we
historical
have-
registry or something like that, I mean, it's not protected.
I think life and safety, I think there are requirements. We may not necessarily ordain over that, but I think.
Well, that's probably why their insurance company says it has to be torn down.
Exactly.
because-
Well, if that were the case, I mean, you don't like your building, you just let it go to hell.
Insurance company
And
does.
away you go. And we see it happening right now on other locations
Yeah.
in our community. So, it becomes a kind of default circumstance where we arrive at our door here and it's a kind of fait accompli because the building is shot, or the fire or the insurance company is saying, and I don't think that ought always to be a positive factor in approving things like this.
Yeah, at the time, no one knew the garage, at least no one on the board at the time knew the garage even had existed, because so having it be kind of a fabric of the community wasn't, our conclusion was it wasn't part of the fabric of the community, because the only people who knew it existed are the people who lived in the house, I think.
Well, if you drive down Main Street and are caught in traffic and look left as you're headed north, I think there's a whole series of carriage houses
Yeah.
behind some of those significant buildings, and I think they are contributing. So
Mhm.
I think it's a little late in this particular instance, but I raise the issue for future
Mhm.
conversations.
Unless they're violating some zoning law by not maintaining the building, it definitely doesn't fall to this board. There's nothing in the regs that I know of that said that we can say you must maintain your buildings.
I'll look at it.
While it may be a shame, I don't know that we have any
Mhm.
say in the matter. So.
Board members have anything else? I'll open it up to the public. Are you here for this?
I'm actually here, I'm here representing the owner as well.
Okay.
So, yeah, but I'm fine.
All right.
That's my comments.
So, we have a draft, or, have a deal?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the draft as amended.
It's not even, it's not
We
even
don't
amended.
need 6 and, do we need 6 now?
Yeah, Dick and I talked about keeping conclusion 6 for reference. I think the only thing that needs to be amended based on the discussion thus far is just the people present, finding 11, says who was here tonight. And
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
Good evening, board.
Yeah.
Bye now.
Next is other business. News and announcements. You have any, Alex?
The search continues for Annie's replacement. We're hoping to do some interviews next week. But, we're still actively soliciting applications as well. So that process is ongoing. Other announcements. I think that our water system is about ready to be able to add more customers to it. As most of you probably know, we've been under an order from the state not to add any additional water users because of our problematic wells, and the new water system was constructed to alleviate that and has been online for weeks,
Go ahead.
but it doesn't have the state permit to be sort of blessed and to allow us to add additional customers. I believe that's going to happen any day now.
So it's going to expand the capacity, not just replace?
Only a
the
tiny amount, not very much. So the 3 big projects, there's still no capacity for them. But projects like Hannaford, like the Norris project, like Green Street, like there's a couple of small 2-lot subdivisions you've done on Hawk Lane and the Richmond Road. Those are all hung up waiting for water. And they can't get their state permit until we get ours for the municipal system. So that's good news.
'Cause I thought it only brought it back to the capacity that it was supposed to have and the system was supposed to have in the first place.
And just a little bit more.
Okay.
Just a little bit more, yep. So, in
And
other
they should turn
related
back.
news, the BlackRock Construction is actively working with the town to drill exploratory wells where the town's hydrogeologist says we should be looking. I think 2 of those sites are on the Haystack Crossing property itself, which is one of the reasons why they're involved. But
So
beyond
that's
simply giving us permission to drill wells there, they're actually gonna do it.
So that's in partnership with the town, not private wells?
Correct, exactly. They are fully aware that the town will not be allowing any private wells to go into these areas, that, we should be working together on that.
They're funding it themselves at
Yes,
this point?
they're funding that. I believe with the understanding that if we strike water, that there'll be
There's a
some negotiation
reimbursement.
over the town gaining the rights to that and that sort of thing. But I found it to be a positive development that finally, after months and months of sort of encouraging
Right.
all these 3 big developers to sort of come to the table, that they did.
And so they'll be able to tap that into the existing treatment
That's
facility
the hope.
without any
That's the hope, yep.
issues?
Yep, that's why the sites that have been explored to date are all up in that part of the village area. The first sites that the town has already explored but didn't pan out were all along Shelburne Falls Road.
Has Brett participated in these conversations?
Brett has participated in the conversations but has not actively done anything.
Contributed?
Exactly. And I think that the Jan Blumstrom and her group at Renewable NRG are also actively having conversations and trying to help, but it's really BlackRock, because the wells that the town wants to explore on that property, BlackRock is the one who sort of stepped up most
But there will
actively.
only be wastewater for how many of those projects?
Good question. If I remember right, I'd have to look. They recalculated every June, and I don't recall this June. I think it was about the same as last year. So I want to say we're in the 200 residential unit range in terms of remaining capacity, and these projects all together are more like 400. So there's still not enough wastewater capacity for all three of the projects.
How many houses in Black Rock, do you remember, or units?
It was units. It was about 218, I think, is what it shook out to, plus a senior housing element that's not included in the 218. And the NRG proposal was about 100,
I feel like I remember it was,
and Brett's was about 66.
I feel like it was either Black Rock or the other two. It wasn't both. I
Correct.
remember, yeah.
Yeah, we had enough wastewater for NRG and Brett. Or actually, we didn't actually
It
have
wasn't
enough for
even
Black
for
Rock.
all of
We didn't have
Black
enough for Black
All of
Rock.
Black Rock because it's so big.
Right.
But we're actively having conversations with all of them about the wastewater as well. So it's been productive, but it's taking some time. So I would expect that you're going to see some extension requests coming soon from all three of them. Citing the fact that they're trying to work in partnership with the town and that sort of thing. Hopefully you saw the paper today, so you know that the Hannaford case was decided by the environmental court, and then there were various motions to modify that decision, and the judge basically said no. And so all three parties are appealing to the Vermont Supreme Court, including the town. So that's just another year or so of court before we know what happens on that front. What else is there for
What did
news?
the judge say no about? No, I
Um,
don't want to make the decision.
No, the judge approved the project initially, and all three parties filed motions to amend that decision, trying to explain that the judge hadn't quite gotten all the facts right.
And
It's complicated to
Alex-
explain all three parties, but
Yeah.
basically the judge turned all of them aside, including the town, and said, no, the decision I made stands. The project's approved.
With the conditions that he.
With the conditions that the judge imposed, along with actually most of the DRB conditions as well.
maybe this is a time to, again, think about talking about on-the-record review.
Mhm.
I think we had asked Annie to kind of get stuff from Vermont
League of Cities and Towns.
about how that might occur and how it might change the court's review of what we do. I tried to actually get stuff online, and I was not very successful, notwithstanding my supposed informed background. I plead guilty to being obtuse about this.
I think
I think this is something the board really needs to consider. And maybe this is a good time in the next several months, because we're kind of quiet.
we are at the moment, we're kind of short on staff
Just
too.
get some information about, because we've had some projects where our decisions are basically being ignored. And trials are occurring by judges who don't know much about Hinesburg and don't get that much input about Hinesburg. So I'm just advocating for us to make an informed recommendation to the select board about whether this is something we should explore.
Is that something the select board has to do?
Yes,
It is?
Yes.
ultimately.
So I'm happy to provide you guys information about that whole protocol.
Mhm.
I want to make sure that it's. I'm happy to provide that to Greg. If you would like to discuss that or have it as a presentation to the board, is everyone in the same place? You
Yeah.
want to learn more about MAPPA?
I think we've
On the
already
record.
said we're interested in at least talking about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me
Absolutely.
get some basic information so you can read about it.
Because once we get more water capacity and sewer capacity, we're going to get more big applications.
Absolutely.
And we're just kind of behind the curve on this right now.
To some extent, although I will point out that in the Hannaford case, for example, the judge imposed basically all of your conditions with the exception of the post-construction traffic study.
Well, there are a couple of applications that he overruled our denials, and we're all kind of scratching our heads on those.
Well, that's true. That's a good point. Maybe at some point we should talk about more detail as to why, because there were some mitigating reasons. It wasn't as if I think on both of the applications that the judge overturned, which you issued denials on, Hannaford brought something new to the table.
That's exactly what they
Yeah.
can't do in
And
on-the-record
right.
review.
Right. So you're saying with a de novo review, it enables
Absolutely.
that.
It's just a trial from the beginning. And you
Yeah.
can bring all this stuff. Otherwise, it's a very constrained review.
Point made. I'll get you some MAPPA related and on the record review related information, and then why don't you take a look at that? We can always put it on an agenda item to talk about it a little bit. It might be an interesting topic to bring somebody from the VLCT in to actually talk about it, or bring
And
another.
It's going to change the character of our hearings. And
Yeah.
I think we sort of just have kind of a distant sense of
I agree, and I think also that there's like any grass is greener kind of scenario. There's an idea that it will do something positive, and aside from also knowing what it might do on the negative front in terms of changing hearings and all that, I think it would also be good to hear to what extent communities that have used it feel that it has in fact had the positive effect that you would hope that it would, or whether that really didn't materialize. for
I'm really
other
eager to
reasons.
hear all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me put like a little packet together. I'll get it to you guys, and then we can decide after that if maybe we want to have a couple people come in and take up part of a meeting to talk to you about it, give you some experience.
Mhm.
Give me the, I'm a little lost.
Oh, sorry, Ralph. Yeah, let me give you the pencil sketch.
elementary school
Right.
description of.
So under Vermont statute, the reviews that you conduct can be appealed to the environmental court,
Right.
and the environmental court judgments can be appealed to the Vermont Supreme Court. Typically, the appeals that are made to the environmental court are called de novo appeals, meaning that the court hears the project all over again, brand new again, and the judge then sits as the board and uses the regulation to make a new decision. The judge doesn't have to give any deference to your decision, and most importantly, from what Greg is saying, the applicant essentially re-argues the proposal and can make changes to it. So that's what happened in Hannaford on a couple of those denials. You denied it based on inadequate landscaping. Hannaford appealed, and when they presented the case to the judge, they said, they were open about it. They said, the DRB denied us, here's some reasons why. This is a de novo appeal, so we're going to present some solutions to those, and here they are. And then the judge will make a ruling based on what could be a new application. In practice, most applications that go to environmental court don't change much, because the parties are interested in arguing particular facets of the DRB decision. But they can change, and that is what happened for a couple of those pieces of the Hannaford puzzle. So communities have an option. They can adopt the municipal.
And this is something that's new in the last 10 years, right?
Yes. The acronym is MAPPA, M-A-P-A, and I forget, Municipal Administrative Procedure Act, I think
Yes.
is what it's called. And if the select board were to adopt that, and then this board were to change its protocols a little bit,
Yeah.
the environmental court would not hear appeals de novo. They would hear appeals based on the record that you guys established.
Yeah.
Which would be the recorded.
Exactly.
And that requires a recorded.
So you would have to take in evidence a little more formally with exhibits and numbering and things. We already have recordings through VCAM, thankfully, but things would need to be recorded. The judge would then, as I understand it, review how you came to your decision, the evidence you used, and all of that, and would basically be deciding the appeal based on whether you did something wrong, not based on a
Substantial
re-argument
evidence.
of
It's not-
the case.
They don't decide the case on their own. They decide whether there is substantial evidence to support our decision.
I see.
So there is a fair bit of deference to our decision-making.
Right.
And that's absent in our current regulations.
I see.
And some communities, not very many, but some communities have taken advantage of that, and others have considered it and not. So it'd be an interesting
It'd
thing
be-
to think about.
It'd be interesting to know if there are other communities locally who use it that we could go visit.
Yeah,
while
that's
through
true,
it.
too.
I mean, that would give us an idea of how they run their meetings.
And there was an issue about whether it could be used, it had to be used in every instance.
Right.
And it doesn't. it can be used only in a certain class of cases.
Right, so
Do you want a permit to put a porch on, you don't need to go that.
Yeah, you can devise
Right, yeah.
regulations that would say only major subdivisions or something like that.
Right. I'll get more information on that so we know what we're talking about. I'm sure it's not a a la carte sort of on a case by case basis you can invoke it or not. But I wouldn't be surprised if
No, there have to
you
be
said
standards, but
right.
you can set standards.
Right, minor versus major subdivision, conditional use versus variance, that sort of
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's essentially what it is, and it has been around for 10 years or so, but we've never really considered it.
But it's not our decision. It's something we'd have to ask the select board to consider.
Right.
Yeah.
So I can pull that together.
Can I ask, before you go further, clarification on why the last applicant actually had to come back? Why couldn't you just say, okay, it's approved for,
Expired.
Oh, because they received a conditional use approval and a site plan approval, both of which have a 1-year expiration date. So if you don't actually do the project or get the follow-on zoning permit, that approval expires. They can ask for a 1-year extension, and in this case, they forgot.
okay.
So the approval expired by the time they realized it had expired. Well, I think she mentioned they had some fiscal issues, so they weren't going to be able to do it within the year. And in any case, by the time they were able to do it, it had expired and there was no opportunity to extend. So
Okay.
that's why they were back. Yes, we are trying to do a better job in your decisions at the bottom of the decision where it has the vote and all that in big bold letters
Expiration
saying this decision expires on this date or within this time period.
Good idea.
I don't think these folks were taken by surprise by that. They understood that it had expired, but I think you recently had an accessory apartment person, Mr. Wagner, who was, I don't know if he expressed that during the meeting, but certainly when he came to talk to us, he was not pleased that his conditional use approval had already expired.
Is it up to the board or planning to call and say, you have 2 days left?
Good question. So it's my feeling that it's not up to us to remind applicants of their
Right.
approval expiration dates.
Unless you had nothing else to do.
With that said,
But it could save
since
time.
Annie came on and Lenore as well, they developed a spreadsheet for tracking purposes for your decisions, which we didn't have before, which is bad, but we do now. And that's actually part of Lenore's job now, is on a monthly basis to review all of your permits that are about to expire and to contact people, because it's just easier for everyone to not have people have to come back
Right.
in. So we are being proactive on that now,
Okay.
but I don't think we're required to be. It's
Right,
still
but it
really the
seems to make
applicant's
sense
responsibility.
to save time with just a
Yeah.
phone call.
And frankly, this board, as many applications as you do, we're not South Burlington. We can keep track of it. It's not
Right.
that big of a job to keep track of it and just let people know. So we're doing that now.
Thank you.
All right, so we have some applications.
Okay, I'm going because I was not here for
Uh-huh.
these two. Have fun. See you folks in September.
Bye, Grant.
Welcome back, Alex.
Thanks.
So John and Julie Eastman.
Right, this is the 2-lot subdivision up on Sherman Hollow Road, which you guys had a hearing on
Do you have anything?
I had
July
nothing.
19th.
I had nothing. It looked good to me.
Yeah, it looked good to me.
I agree.
So I'll make a
Yep.
motion to approve as written.
I will second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Excellent.
Now, we have Annie and Rob Frost.
For the record, Don, I'm abstaining, so, because I wasn't at that meeting either, but I'm always trying to learn something.
Oh, so on the Eastman, you were abstaining from that vote?
Yeah.
Okay, so that was
For
5
the
to
same
0
reason that Waples left.
with Ralph abstaining. Okay,
4-0, right?
5.
I'm not counting. I'm not counting. Gotta count myself.
Count yourself too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
count yourself.
Yes, so Frost, how does it look, especially the landscaping?
Yeah.
Which Annie said basically it was left to you guys to basically do the landscaping for them or design it.
Yeah. I like the 2-row staggered, that sounds good.
Yep.
Okay.
That should work. And, yeah, I think the description of the size of the trees, the initial size and the initial size of the bushes, and/or moving the lilacs over to the fence was good.
Yep.
So you're good with, what did I put down here? Nursery stock, no less than 4 feet, so 4 feet's good, you don't want to go 6.
I think that's fine.
Okay. I think 4 feet should be
I mean, it's
fine.
6
They'll-
trees.
They will grow, and there's just 2 staggered rows, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a few little things. Starting at 6 on the first page, just put an "is" on the third line of number 6, which is not depicted on the site plan.
Gotcha, thank you.
And at the end of that, which is site to be widened to 24 feet and to be paved, I believe is what they said.
Oh, really?
The apron, yeah, the apron,
Okay.
yep. Mhm. And on conclusion 1, fourth line, it says visually screening expanses of pavement. Well, it's pavement and parking lots, right? It's not necessarily pavement.
No, it was a lot of gravel.
I know the lots are going to be gravel, so I just wanted to be sure.
Yeah, I think that if
Or
we
is-
bring it up, Annie is referring to the actual zoning regulation there, not this particular site. So
And
let me just see what
okay.
565 says.
Sure.
There's 565 up on the screen. Plantings, fencing, and other landscape
Yeah,
features
word
shall
for
be
word.
designed to serve a clear function such as screening between incompatible use of structure, visual screening expanses of pavement or large unbroken building facades,
Parking lots, it says
Parking lot.
It says
providing
parking
shade in
lots.
summer for parking lots and,
So anyways, I was saying, or.
You want me to just,
Just parking areas, whatever, lots. I said pavement and parking lots. After pavement, just say and parking lots.
okay. Got it.
Number 5, implementation as conditioned below the combination of, just put an "of" in there.
Okay.
And on order to B, I would say the primary access driveway shall be widened to 24 feet and built to the specifications determined by V-Trans. Just add "and built to the specifications determined by V-Trans."
Do we want that in there? Because then that becomes Mitch's job to enforce a V-Trans standard. Don't we want V-Trans to be the enforcer on that? I understand where you're going with that, Ted.
Well, if you already said shall be widened to 24 feet, so that becomes enforceable too, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I guess you don't need to do that if that's the case. If you think that puts us in enforcement.
Yeah, I in general, I'm loath to have sort of conditions that require us to enforce
yeah.
a state permit when the
Okay.
state has plenty of people to enforce their own
Yep.
stuff.
That's fine. And number 5, we kind of repeat that, widen to 24 feet.
Yeah, the way Annie constructed this, number 2 is the submitting a
site plan,
revised
right,
site plan, and
right,
number
right.
5 is the
Yeah,
even if
okay.
the site plan shows
So-
it, you
so-
got to do it.
So is that 2C or 2B? Is that is my question, number 5?
Oh, you're right.
It's 2B?
B. Good
2B.
catch.
And number 8, instead of the generic one, I would just say, instead of say all exterior lighting, including, I would say the existing fixtures proposed for exterior lighting shall be replaced or shielded.
Okay. Yeah, because they didn't propose anything
Right.
new, right?
Right.
Got it.
That's it.
Well, that's fine the way it is, the way you're changing it, but I mean, that's kind of boilerplate that we always, whether anybody's asking for lighting or not, we always seem to have that.
Yeah, I
that one
know.
order in there that says if you put lighting in, it's
You're
gotta
right,
be
Nick. It
downcast.
is boilerplate, and he just added the parenthetical statement to the boilerplate. Yep.
Yeah, but in this case, I want to capture the fact that all they're asking for is the exterior is the existing fixtures. That's kind of what I'm trying to pull in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on 2C, the existing ADA accessible ramp and ADA accessible parking space. So by just making that order the way it's worded, does that imply that's also going to be marked and signed as? I assume it needs to be actually indicated through signage or
Yeah, my
pavement paint.
If I remember right from either Annie telling me or looking at the minutes, this is a gravel lot. They're not proposing to pave it, and that
Right.
this
They're gonna put a sign.
they were going to put a sign in, right?
on the
Garage.
railing or
garage
on
door
the
or
garage
railing.
or whatever.
Okay. And that's, I just want to say, make sure that C implies that a sign, some sort of signage is included in calling it ADA accessible parking.
I
right?
can add a parenthetical statement, saying where it says shall be added,
An appropriate signage?
including appropriate signage.
Okay, sounds good. And I also liked in number 9 where you talked about any additional, so the current impervious surface is below the 10,000, but any additional. I wasn't exactly sure if our regs gave us that leeway or not, but it seemed like a hole in that whole 10,000 square foot
Yeah.
regulation where, oh, well, I'm going to only do 9,999 this time, but next time I'm going to come back and ask for another 200, and you just keep adding it on that way, and you never actually have to do the engineered study.
You
But,
can't keep adding.
but why not? I mean,
I think that's
Not
right.
within the same subdivision.
I don't think that it's I don't think it's addressed in what the town adopted for stormwater. So I think somebody could do that.
yeah.
Really?
1 year add this much, come back 7 years later and say, well, now I'm going to add a little bit more, and they would be considered separately.
Next thing you know, the whole lot is a parking lot, and it's never been not wastewater.
Stormwater
has ever
addressed.
been put
Yeah, I
in.
think it's more important in this situation because of the nature of
There's more expansion.
the nature of how they expanded the site without getting approval ahead of time, and the nature of the use that might
It almost
Morph,
certainly
grow.
will expand, right?
it seems likely that they could want more parking in the future as the business gets another truck or what have you. I think for a lot of projects, this is not so much of an issue because they have a complete site plan and done, and then you don't see a revision until the project expands in some way in the future. I don't think it's disrespectful to say that this has been a haphazard project, and the Frosts really need to understand that we will be watching them going forward and trying to help them more proactively be in compliance.
Right.
Could you say that a further revision would have this square footage added to any additional request?
That's what he said.
I think that's what this says.
That's what it says.
Any future impervious surface shall be calculated cumulatively
Okay.
Yeah.
with this approval. That's the intent of that.
Okay.
Is to say you've added this much now and you're going to add this much later. Well, we're gonna sum them.
Yep.
Once you trigger 10,000, we'd like to see the stormwater control plan.
So no, I don't think you need to say we'll be watching you.
Oh, I wasn't suggesting we put it in the decision. I was just telling you that on the record, because I will tell you that both Annie and Mitch spent a lot of time working with the Frosts, trying to help them, and we're still not there yet. But once this is done, Mitch will have something to enforce.
Do board members have anything else?
I do.
So I'll make a motion to approve as amended.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And
Abstaining,
next
Ralph?
is,
Okay.
next is RB and RH Goodrich 6 months extension of sketch plan approval.
Right, so there was nothing in your packet to this effect. This is the Steve Picola is the developer. It's property owned by the Goodrich family on Observatory Road.
So,
And they have a sketch plan approval that is not expiring yet, but will be, I think, in October or thereabouts.
Yeah.
They know they're going to need a bit more time. So I
so
said,
this is being appealed, right?
no. So this was appealed,
Oh, okay.
and the parties agreed to settle that and basically withdraw the appeal. There wasn't really any kind of mediated settlement. They just agreed to withdraw the appeal.
So if it's under appeal, though, would they need an extension, or would it?
Because I thought
No,
that
my
stopped the
understanding is
clock.
that once it's appealed, the clock stops, and so
That's why I was wondering why.
yeah,
it's-
but the appeal's over now. I
Okay.
think there's still a good chance that this developer will have the town in court over this road issue, but hopefully it will not be your decision that will be the subject of that court
Okay.
case. It'll be, something else entirely. Past agreements, deeds, promises, so on and so forth.
So I'll make a motion to
Grant.
grant a
Extend.
6-month extension for the RB and RH Goodrich sketch plan.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are you eyeing on that,
Aye.
Ralph? Or are you?
No, I'm
We all-
abstaining
You're
on that one,
abstaining on
too.
that one too?
We all
Okay.
aye.
I just wasn't there.
Is that it?
I think that's it.
That's it.
I'll move to adjourn.
I'll
Second.
that.
All those in favor?
Aye. Bam.
Cut it out.